out years. That's why I was asking about. I'm not so concerned about, because then you have 9 million in that 1 year because you got the 2 million plus the inflation adjusted 7. But it seems like the number that we've had is substantially more, and that's why I was asking: are the streets now perfect?
No.
And they don't need anything?
No, but what I will say, Madam Chair, Councilor Righty, is that a lot of these projects sometimes are grant opportunities as well. And so like Urban Trail is a good example where that was grant funded. So a lot of these added funds into transportation, we do actively seek a lot of outside funding to supplement these as well, which we would then accept into our budget as a budget revision as a revenue source. But that would increase these numbers in out years when those opportunities arise and we're successful. It may be though that those numbers, given inflation and everything else, to your point, they don't necessarily match the out needs.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not arguing that the budget should be an infinite either, but it just seems like it's substantially less than we're even doing projecting for next year. So, and then so the Economic Development Fund now that's a different page.
Yes, Madam Chair, or Councilor Righty, budget summary, I want to say it's
That's
page
in the-
180, page 80.
So we're back on page 80.
And in preparation, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves unless the chair would like us to cover it now, but there is a handout in preparation of the, even though it was not put on the parking lot. I know there were some questions yesterday about that, so we did do a supplemental spreadsheet that sort of talks about ending balance there. And you'll see there's about $5.2 million, if I remember correctly, of unallocated balance, and that, but we did include the 9th Street apartments because council's already made a motion, so that's already taken out of that and allocated. And then 4 million, and then we've also allocated money for 20th Street because that's in the final phases of a development agreement that we'll be bringing to council hopefully soon. So just want to point out that we have taken out some known projects, and we've been carrying a placeholder for some U.S. Forest Service lands that we'd like to purchase for the purpose of utilities and some other things. So we keep carrying that forward. But other than that, that would be a available balance for any LEDA that would come up or housing or public-private partnership. But that does include, let's see, what was the influx this year? That will be available fund balance. And then I'll just remind council that should another opportunity arise that is a little bit outside of that guidance, we absolutely have the ability to bring that with a budget revision, but that would come out of the general fund balance should council choose to do that at a later date when there's a known opportunity you'd like to fund.
Okay, and then maybe this is just in the copy here, but can you clarify the row CP 1008? This is page 275. The text just says improvements.
Madam Chair, Councilor Righty, that is a typo that will be fixed for the final book, but is White Rock Visitor Center site improvements.
Okay, so the food truck pads is below, no, and then improvements is above. Okay, so that's the one that is complete.
And Madam Chair, initially, and Councilor Righty, initially we were hoping to fund the improvements that have already been made with the restroom and the gazebo in addition to the food truck pads, but the money only went so far, so we programmed a second project to complete the food truck pads.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Councilor Haveman?
Thank you, Chair. Kind of piggybacking on Councilor Righty, I was a little concerned, I think, as well, with the out years starting in FY27, which is not that far away, not having any expenditures forecasted other than kind of, 7 million and change, probably for inflation, just for general street, maintenance. So I think that is already budgeted in, I believe. And then 2 million for the transit center, potentially planning it, I guess. And I just think if we're going to try to make some decisions that are trying to protect us a little bit, so we're conservative going forward, then we need to maybe better understand what some additional expenditures might be, because these have been some pretty big categories in the past. And there's some reasons for that. One could argue that, Canyon Rim Trail, that was a big hitter for the last several years. Trinity Drive, big hitter. I think that's the one tied to some grants, so that'll be done. Urban Trail, New Mexico 4 crossing, that'll just be done. The Pinon School, entrance, that'll be done. Bathtub Road, that'll be done. But I assume if I went back and looked at the last 10 years of budgets of CIP in the Public Works section, there's probably a whole bunch of things always that, so I guess I'd feel a little more comfortable if that whole page at the top of 278 just wasn't so blank. So that's kind of my thoughts there. And likewise, even on just the Department of Public Works, let's see, because that was all related to transportation, I'm sorry. Then there's this kind of general public works projects, kind of same thing. Not a whole lot in the out years, other than 4. Where did that one go? I think that was the EOC or maybe Fire Station 4. I think that's I had one other question related to the sustainability enhancements. The $1 million proposed for FY26 and FY27, is that any of that carryover from prior years?
Madam Chair, Councilor Heckman, yes, those previous year allocations carry forward.
Okay. And then we just decide in FY28 we're gonna be done?
Madam Chair,
No
Madam
more
Chair,
sustainability for you.
Madam Chair, Councilor Heckman, I do understand the concern, but I also think it kind of makes a little bit of the point that we were trying to convey in this budget, that council may want to consider out years. At this point in time, all we're asking council is to adopt the fiscal year 26, the next year of list of things to do. The upside right now is, as you heard Mr. Martinez talk earlier, we have a very large backload of funded projects that we still need to get off the ground. And with the CIP, the monies do carry forward. It's going to be part of the motions that council make at the end of the budget hearings, is to carry forward those capital projects. So any of those things, so we would welcome from a staffing and resource perspective some time to catch up on that very long list of things, of projects that are currently funded and we would like to just get done. With that said, given the reduction of the GRT, and we can, we're gonna have a discussion item on the GRT, there's a couple ways that council needs to look at it. One is you're gonna have to look at what's left in the general fund and ask for some increased transfers when you want to add projects. The other thing is, you heard Ms. Proglio talk about, we have a couple more years of paying off our previous debt service, and when that expires, we could look at some additional debt service and what that looks like. But with that debt service, we're pledging to pay that debt service for 20 years. And I think that's a good conversation to have, to build some capacity for an out years with where council's comfortable with the GRT conversation and the amount of what you would like to build some room in the budget to make some of those considerations in the future.
Yeah, and I really do, respect those comments. I just think is to make a good decision about a potential GRT increment or other ways to bring in revenue, we need to make sure that we're being realistic about what expenditures look like. Even if we know it's going to be lean years, there's still things a community needs to do to not let your infrastructure age, for example. I'm not saying it has to be, we have to, do new shiny things. maybe, there's a little hiatus from that, but I think one reason that we've had to spend so much in the last number of years is because for a long period of time, there was kind of kicking the can down the road. At least that's what I think. So I just want to make sure that we're making sure that we're reflecting anticipated expenses accurately for at least the next couple out years, so that we don't cut ourselves short and don't say, oh, well, maybe we're okay, the reserves will cover us, so just make sure I know you're approaching it very conservatively, which I think is fantastic. So I'm just adding a layer to that.
Madam Chair, Councilor Hebman, I want to give a little bit of an upside viewpoint to that concept, because we do have additional aspects to our CIP. We have our major facility maintenance fund, which is actually an operational fund, but you'll see there's this under the capital improvements tab, there's actually the major facility maintenance. We did our facilities assessment, and we sort of programmed out kind of an annual allotment into that fund. We also have maintenance funds for striping and pavement repairs. In our Public Works Department, we have our IT CIP. So, and then Community Service has done their sort of long-term maintenance, and we do have plugs in there for community services. So I will say that I am confident every department has some bucket of money to maintain some level. Is it completely adequate? I can't fully project that. The model is looking at a 3% increase. Are there going to be other things that are failures or unanticipated? Probably. But there'll also, the good news is there'll also be other funding sources that we are not counting on right now that are also not built into this model that will present himself. So.
I appreciate that reminder. That's correct. Thank you. My last question then is, if you had said this earlier or during CSD's presentation, my apologies, but is the $10 million that starts around FY28, it's 3 million, then 5 million, then 2 million, FY28, 29, 30 respectively, is that for a potential new social services hub? Line CP 7019, and I think and then below it's ball fields, and below that's golf cart electrification.
Madam Chair, Councilor Haveman, yes, fiscal year 28 for the social service hub is 3 million, another 5 million in fiscal year 29, and another 2 million in 2030. But then there's also already some funding of 950,000, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that is for the design services. And then you heard Mr. Martinez talk about getting going on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to confirm that was for the hub that the council has said that is something that's important to our community. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hadman. Any other questions? Councilor Rigor?
Thank you. Now, where did the WAC dormitory or the women's dormitory go on this? That's now called the Manhattan Project Dorm. Is that it? And I'm not aware of us spending any money on it this year. Or you see, I've got a
Madam Chair, Councilor Rieger, it's page 275.
Yeah.
And it's CP 1006. And the reason you didn't see it is because it's been officially renamed Manhattan Project Dorm.
Okay. And it's listed at $4 million this year?
In 2025, that's already allocated money.
But none of the work is done. It's going to be rolling over?
Correct. That's how capital projects work, is they get allocated, and as we work on them, they roll forward. So we're carrying many millions of dollars in capital projects that have not been spent.
All the time, yeah. And the same thing for CP 5025, which is Trinity Street, another large item, except that it also has another 4 million proposed. And, well, there's a little typo there. The FY 2025 proposed is probably 2026, right, at the top of that column.
Yes, Madam Chair and Councilor Rigor, yes, that's correct.
It's a little typo, but it still lists another 4 million. So that's not carryover, that's an additional.
I will look to Mr. Martinez if he wants to elaborate, but my recollection is this is a state-funded project, but we are having to supplement based on the pricing going up.
Madam Chair, Councilor Reger, that is correct. So we're anticipating overage, but at the same time, we're also working on a new grant request for this additional funding as well. So either way, if we do get grant funding, we have the budget in place to move forward with the project and provide the match.
Is this what before we used to call the road diet? Is that the same thing?
This project is the portion between Oppenheimer and Connect Street. And it was presented to council,
Yeah.
I want to say in April, maybe sooner. And there was we're calling it a kind of a hybrid road diet option that was approved by
Yeah.
council.
Okay, so this is what we called the road diet at the time, or somebody called it the road diet. Is that correct? Yes. Yeah.
Councilor Rieger, yes, that was it.
It's
It
not
was,
some other project.
it was presented as kind of a hybrid option because it resembled a road diet but wasn't a full road diet proposal.
Half of it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, hybrid is.
And then, these numbers mean you anticipate the totals like $8 million then?
Based on current estimates, yes, that's what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from counselors? Do we have any public comment on the CIP? I don't see anybody present. Anybody online, Ms. Madison?
If you'd like to make public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, there is no motion needed for this, okay.
I was going to ask that because I had a feeling. Right. We've already sort of tentatively approved some of these. All right. We are at, what is it? I can't see the clock, but anyway, we're at the end here for today. We're going to continue the meeting tomorrow, same time, 6:00 p.m. here in Chambers. And we'll talk about parking lot and our final motions. All right. Thank you very much.